Hello YouTube, Alan back with another video, 3 in a row, this is unbelievable. And what actually put it in my mind was it's Pokemon's 25th anniversary. And I was watching the Pokemon Presents and it was the first few minutes that really just stuck in my mind. I went, wow, it really has been nearly 25 years since Pokemon burst onto the scene. Now obviously the Western release, not quite, because that was more 1998, but it just kind of brought back so much nostalgia. I said, you know what, I'll talk about it a little. And as such, I'm going to do a quick video. Well, when are my videos ever that quick? Talking about my Pokemon memories and kind of how that ties into, I guess, the Pokemon 25th anniversary and on Pokemon Day. How fitting is that? So, of course, 25 years, they're talking about the Japanese launch. I didn't know anything about it, like most people in the West wouldn't have. But I first became aware of something called Pocket Monster from N64 magazine. They did a Japanese segment, and I was like, that game sounds interesting. But you know, inscrutable to a certain degree. I didn't know Japanese. I wasn't going to import it or anything like that, and kind of didn't pass any heat on it. But I kind of started to hear vibes about it coming up to launch, and I don't know had I seen the cartoon or what beforehand, but literally like a few days before launch, I just decided I had to get it. And in fact, it might have been the day, and it was kind of weird for me. One, because I didn't necessarily buy games for the moment back then. And two, I wasn't a big Game Boy player. For this, I actually dug out my Game Boy. This is my original Game Boy from back in the day. It's very kind of worn, you know, because the screen cover's gone. I have it somewhere I could glue it back on, I guess. And it was a second-hand system I got with Mario Land 1 and 2, you know, travel pack and whatnot, and we played a bit of this, myself and my family, you know, we played on it. I borrowed a few games from friends, Donkey Kong, Tetris, that type of thing, and it was nice, enjoyable, but it was relatively idle. And that all changed with Pokemon. And I don't know what really pushed it over my mind, but I kept my parents were going up to Dublin, and I said, okay, I just go in and get me Pokemon. For some reason, it just got stuck in my head. You gotta get Pokemon. And like I said, I don't know what the driver was, but wow. In terms of Game Boy games, I do not regret it at all. This was immense. And for me, it was the reason to own a Game Boy. I own very few Game Boy games, and I certainly don't have that kind of major kind of nostalgia for any Game Boy stuff, but this is different. I mean, I still have the original, like this is my copy from back in the day, and it's in perfect condition. What is there to say about this game that hasn't been said a million times? You know, they talk about all of the merchandising, all of everything else that cropped up, the animated movies, trading cards, all that sort of stuff. That is a cultural phenomenon, and that's actually what really jumped out at me when I was watching that trailer for the Pokemon 25th presentation. The first 5 minutes where they're talking about all of the games, all of the you know, the merchandise, all of the stuff, the planes, the clothes, everything that's gone on, including massive events like Pokemon Go, and it has been such a huge cultural phenomenon. But it would be nothing if it weren't for the original games. These were really, really good games, and yes, they could do with some quality of life improvements. We'll talk about that later, but they were great games for the day. Like, there's a reason they sold so well. Really, I always thought about it and said, they hit you for collecting. People like to collect things. Certainly, retro gamers like to collect things. Nurturing, you build your own team. You nurture your own Pokemon. You know, they become yours. You know, and that is an amazing feel for such a, you know, a simple game, in that it actually feels like your Pokemon, not just a random Pikachu or whoever, Pidgey or Rattata. Like, they feel like your Pokemon, which was amazing. And just a nice, simple, effective RPG battling and combat mechanism all tied together in, you know, what was just a great package. And yeah, you had the whole social networking, I suppose, at the time, with the trading between the two versions. I had to go for red, and between myself and my friends, we kind of split the versions, so we were able to trade all of the Pokemon and get them all. And what I noticed was, we all really weren't Game Boy players. You know, one of my friends had a few more games, But even those that just didn't have Game Boys wanted Game Boys to play Pokemon. It was so big. And like, you know, they called it Pokemania, all this sort of stuff. It's the most impressive thing wasn't the fact that when this blew up, and it did, it blew up in 1998, like no one's business. You have every year you have things that blow up big. Pokemon Mania, I suppose, was probably for the video game equivalent, like Beatlemania or something. It was just insane to go through. That, like, even my parents knew what Pokemon were. And they very rarely would have known about, you know, other than me talking, they wouldn't have known about Pokemon or you know, video game stuff in general. Everyone knew about it. But what really made this stand out was the fact that it stayed. Pokemon has stayed relevant for 25 years. It wasn't a flash in the pan that blew up and is gone like Furby. I know Furby is still around and all those things, but it is still huge. The Pokemon Company make more money now than they did during this boom. That is insane. And it's largely thanks to the likes of Pokemon Go. Years after its release, still like top of the, you know, the charts on Android and iOS. Like, this franchise is insane, even if you're not the biggest fan. And it kind of seems strange for me to be saying I'm not the biggest fan, sitting right next to like a bloody giant Snorlax, a smaller Snorlax, and another Snorlax. Can you guess what my favourite Pokemon might be? Oh, there's a Munchlax there too. He's been sitting in the background of tons and tons of videos. I don't know if anyone ever noticed. He's grand, but he's no Snorlax. This Snorlax has actually been in tons of my early videos. And it was... at one point he used to always sit in my game throne, but nowadays he sits in the shelf back there, so he's just out of view. He's got his beads from Vegas on him. And this guy, he's just so big. He's kind of big to sit in all of the videos. But I love my Snorlax, it's still brilliant. Anyway, I got deviated on Snorlax. I was going to talk about a few more of the games and stuff. Just, you know, after all, as great as all of the merchandising is, and films and anime and all this sort of stuff, and Detective Pikachu wasn't a bad movie for a live action video game movie, you know? The games are what make it. I love Pokemon Red. Absolutely spent way over 100 hours on it. And you know, the only problem with this was I didn't want to delete my save file. There was only one save file. And I built my team. I completed the game. I leveled up my entire team to level 100. You know, got Mewtwo, got all 150, everything done. But I couldn't delete the file. I didn't want to. So it was, I would play it again, but not save, you know? And, you know, you can only go so far. So, for whatever reason, despite loving this, I didn't buy gold or silver. You know, I bought it from a friend, and I wasn't as big into it. And primarily, it was because of the real-time nature. You know, I could only play at certain times, so I got really frustrated that I would miss certain Pokemon. I don't know why that annoyed me just so much, because it's not like I needed them. I think it was because I had done 150 in the original. I just wanted to collect them all. I mean, come on. Gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all. That was the tagline. So, believe it or not, it wasn't until the Game Boy Advance that I kind of got back into it again with Pokemon Sapphire version. And I didn't even pay for this. Back in the day, you know, you'd have the, you know, Club Nintendo. Yeah, I had basically my club points, whatever they were called. Were they stars back then? I don't remember what they were back then. But there was never anything on it. So I just had the points sitting up there. And then randomly they had, you know, some Pokemon games. And I was like, sold, give me. You know, I don't know if I even paid for shipping back then, or if it was pretty nominal. You know, I just saw it. Basically, I got this free. Although, this box is pristine, right? My own personal copy. This is my personal copy, but it came from Nintendo, and the box is fucking damaged. Sheesh. Now, a lot of people complain about this because too much water. And yeah, there is a lot of water, and it's not as... I didn't get into it as much as the first one, but it kind of did reignite that interest for me. You know, it did say, yeah, this is... The core game here is still good. You can add in your tweaks, you know, your double battles and whatever 3 years. Take or leave most of them. But the actual core game is great, you know, and so I was, you know, yeah, I remember, it kind of reminded me what was so good, and that led me into getting Fire Red, and, you know, the other one was Leaf Green. These are now the definitive versions of this game. I know they've been remade again on the Switch, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, but they take a lot of cues from Pokemon Go, and they're not necessarily I just played the demo on Switch, and it wasn't for me because I didn't like the throw and the catch. I preferred just the standard battling the Pokemon and all that sort of stuff. So these are the remakes. A lot of the quality of life improvements that you would see in the later games, speeding up the kind of early gameplay. Plus, they're in color. I mean, you could get Game Boy, Game Boy Color palette stuff on the original. But yeah, so this is definitely the version to play. And again, it just brought it back, that love for the original. And finally, I could play the original without deleting my save file. Hallelujah. So I was kind of back on board. Now, I don't buy every Pokemon game by any means. So, I kind of generally would have waited. But for whatever reason, I was so big into the DS, I kind of continued. I didn't get Emerald. Because I generally avoided the third version. Although, to be fair, I actually bought a friend's copy of Yellow because I couldn't play. I couldn't save on Red, so I played through Yellow as well. But so the next one up then would have been Diamond version, which coincidentally was announced that they were doing remakes of Diamond and Pearl. Was it Shiny Diamond and... No, it could be Shiny Pearl and Brilliant Diamond. Actually, that could be it. So these were the first ones that had 3D. And they were on the DS. So you had a few touch controls, which really were just buttons on screen, and you had the Nintendo Wi-Fi for trading, which was probably the bigger item. The 3D in the world was decent, but the game engine felt a bit slow. And the 2D the battles were all still in 2D, and the Pokemon were all in 2D. So it was very much like a halfway house. I could understand the steps they took, because to be fair, modelling everything at that point on the DS would have been challenging in 3D. But they're good games. I am really curious to see how the remakes will work, because they are taking an art style they call it chibi, and it does have a style that's a bit closer to this, rather than, say, Sword and Shield. And typically when they do remakes, like when they remade this, it basically used the engine from this. So it looked like, the current generation. And I'll touch on another remake in a minute. So basically, that is normally how they go. They take the current generation, in which case it'd be Sword and Shield, and they use that engine to make, the remake. So Diamond and Pearl are not being remade like that. It almost looks more like they did back in the day, but this time in proper 3D. I'll definitely be curious to see how that turns out, and probably likely to try it out, because I did like this one. But I just hope they, because this one is a bit slow, as I said, so I hope they kind of speed it up a little. I think it was slow though because of the start. Now I'm skipping over some of the games. Like I have Black and White there, and I have some of the mystery dungeons and whatnot, and a few other spin-offs. But I'm only going to talk about the ones that have a little more meaning to me, I guess. And next up is a big old box. It's Pokemon Soul Silver. Now I mentioned I wasn't as big a fan of Gold or Silver. I played it. I could see that functionally it was a better game, and to be honest, mechanically it corrected a lot of the flaws. Like my original Red team, I had 2 psychic Pokemon on that team. Initially it was Alakazam and Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime, for God's sake. But then it got changed to Mewtwo, hence my channel name and other internet naming stuff was linked to that. Because psychic Pokemon are just so powerful. I mean, they corrected that in future generations. But this, I said, you know what, I'm going to give Pokemon another, Pokemon Gold Silver another chance. And I picked up this one. And people might mock this, but the Poke Walker is actually a really nice little accessory. Because at the time I was doing a lot of commuting into work and whatnot, and had a lot of walking, so I said I would actually play this, and I'd put the walker in my pocket and walk every day and train up the Pokemon that way. And I probably didn't appreciate at the time, including the entire Kanto region, which is the region of the first game, as the extra content once you clear the main story and you become the Pokemon champion. That is a hell of an additional extra. By far and away the best post-game content that I've experienced out of the ones I've played. And I believe the story goes that Iwata, the Nintendo, actually saved the day by aiding Game Freak in terms of compressing the data so that it could fit on the Game Boy cartridge or something like back in the day. Who knows how true that is? I mean, he was a great programmer, so there's probably a degree of truth in it. But certainly, it really is impressive. And when you think back, that was on the original Game Boy. I mean, I probably glossed over it. Like, the original Game Boy game, This came out in the West in 1998. You know, the Game Boy came out in 1989. It was, what other system has its kind of like big release nearly 10 years after it's done? Like, the Game Boy was basically done, and Nintendo were pretty much ready to move on with next hardware, and the success of Pokemon delayed those plans. I think there was like Atlantis or other project stuff that they were going to do, but no. Why release the next stuff when you don't have competition on the market, really? Neo Geo and stuff like that, like, they weren't real competition to Nintendo's position. They were dominant. So, the Game Boy Advance and everything probably would have come out earlier. Well, Pokemon was so successful. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. But yeah, Gold and Silver. I did like the remakes. Apparently because I got to play it with the Poke Walker. Yeah, there's the Poke Walker in here. Yeah, oh no, where is it? Oh, it's sealed on one side. I'm not going to mess with it. But yeah, definitely worth it. And to be honest, I think these are starting to climb in value now because they have the Poke Walker and stuff, and Poke Walker. Jeez, I can't say that. But to be fair, they are good games, and that's a strange thing. The Pokemon games, all the mainline games that I'm talking about now, they've all sold immense numbers. Like, they're on the best selling of every platform that they've been on, type of situation. And there've been re-releases because they got the remasters, they've digital versions of the original games on things like the 3DS, and yet they still command bloody higher prices than you think they should on eBay and whatnot if you want to get an original cartridge. Especially one that even has a working battery. It's crazy. Just shows you how popular it is, which also explains why eBay is so flooded with fakes and stuff. So there you go. Anyway, Soul Silver, great one. After that, though, I kind of, just like I had with back in the day on the original Game Boy, I kind of got burnt out again. So I skipped the next, I skipped XY, I skipped Omega, Ruby, and Sapphire, even though I did enjoy Sapphire. And it wasn't until playing Pokemon Go, kind of revitalized my interest a little. And then I got Sun and, was it Moon? No, Moon. I know Sun and Moon on the 3DS. This is the first one I played on the 3DS, and it was good. They tried to change up the formula a little, and funny enough, I actually can prefer the more traditional gyms and stuff, but it would probably make sense to try and change things up a bit. I don't know why I feel obliged to open that one, because there's nothing to see. I think I was actually looking to see if, the way the 3DS cases sometimes have pictures in the box where it's cut out, but they don't. So, it was a good game. They did have Sun and Moon 2, was it? Or no, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which everyone thought was going to be a DS game. And that's where my, or 3DS game, Switch game, God, I'm mixing up my systems. That's where kind of my Pokemon journey currently ends. I don't think I have a newer one. The only other game I wanted to talk about, I had considered Sword and Shield, and probably will pick it up at some point. I don't have the same issues a lot of people have. I understand the Pokédex is not complete. I can totally see why people are annoyed at that. I would hope that they'll simply fill it back in over time, maybe, and it'll be very curious to see, will Pokemon that they might introduce with the Diamond Pearl remakes be compatible and transferable to Sword and Shield? Because frankly, they should be. That should be the way they should build back up the Pokédex to be complete. I did want to talk about one other one. As I said, I got a few spin-offs too. And probably my favourite spin-off is Pokemon Snap. This is actually an NTSC copy. I got it over at Classic Gaming Expo a few years ago for $1, actually. I cannot imagine you could buy this for $1 today. In fact, back then, I was kind of surprised it was so cheap. I got a few of them, and I'm glad I did. My favourite thing though is on the back of the box, it has, this is a game pack, not a camera. It's like, who thought this was a camera? I guess Pokemon Snap and the picture of a camera presumably confused kids. There is actually a Pokemon camera. There was a Pokemon Polaroid type of thing. I seen it in the video that they did. And it's amazing. Like, when you actually see the video, if you should, I recommend watching that presentation, even the first 5 minutes. See all of the games, the different versions of the anime, the different merchandise, like the amount of stuff. And that's only the cream of the crop that they would have displayed. Although I say cream of the crop, then they had e-reader cards and stuff like that. It's like, wow, you're doing the deep cuts if you're pulling out the e-reader cards. In fact, I got so confused after watching it. I heard someone reference e-reader, and they were talking about, like, what I would call, a Kindle, that type of thing. And I thought, what They're talking about the Nintendo e-reader on this show. I was like, wow, no, oh no, they're talking about an ebook reader. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, but Pokemon Snap was one of the kind of first spin-offs along with Pokemon Stadium. This one, people talk about not having a full Pokedex. This has like 60 odd Pokemon, out of 150 at a time. But getting to see them in 3D, getting to go through that world and try and capture the pictures and whatnot, this was actually a really enjoyable experience for a passive game. You're not killing anything, you're not knocking out Pokemon, you're not, it's a light rail, I guess, shooter type of thing, but it's just a nice experience. And I hope the new Pokemon Snap that they're bringing out on Switch in a few months will actually kind of recapture some of that magic. It looks decent enough, but I don't know. Am I just nostalgic because of this N64 game and I enjoyed it on the N64? So we'll see. I just wanted to highlight that particular one, and that kind of brings me to a close. You know, Pokemon, as I said earlier on, it obviously exploded, in mainstream popularity. But the most impressive thing is how it has retained its place. I mean, especially with kids. Kids are fickle and they move on to things all the time. And the next generation of kids don't necessarily like the type of things that you liked. So you grow up with one thing, whatever, that's the big toy or the big show or whatever it might be. And it's gone in 3-4 years. Like Pokemon beaters, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and even Yokai Watch, they've all come, and while some of them are still around, in fact they're all still around, they are not anything like the size that they were at their peak, and certainly they're nothing like Pokemon. There was one point where Yokai Watch was selling more than kind of Pokemon in Japan in a yearly basis. Only a few years back in the 3DS, it blew up like mad, but it's almost dead now. And that's what people would expect to happen to something like Pokemon. So the fact that it is still so relevant, the fact that so many people are running out doing stupid things with Pokemon Go and whatnot, it is a testament to the staying power of the franchise. And we talk about some companies sometimes like Activision running franchises like Guitar Hero and stuff into the ground. Nintendo are clearly masters of managing long-running big IPs. You have Mario, Zelda's, and obviously you got Pokemon. I know it's Game Freak as well, they're developers, but they're highly involved. But anyway, they're my thoughts on Pokemon 25. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts in the comments below. Were you around through the original kind of explosion, or did you get in late? Or, because there's so many generations now that wouldn't have started with Red and Blue. So many of these kids have come on, and that's not their favorite game. It'd be the 3DS or whatever. Or maybe they got in on the GameCube and Coliseum and things like that. Like, that's the thing. There's so many Pokemon games. People just get in all over the place. I mean, I see people complaining about Sword and Shield. Oh, this, that, and the other. It's the best-selling entries in a long time. I know that's partly down to the Switch being so popular, but that's just the way it is. People get in and they like what they like, and sometimes what you hear online is not really reflective of what's going on in the wider world. And I'm rambling again. See, I could actually just keep going on and talking, but I won't. I'll leave it there. As I said, love to hear your comments, and we'll catch you again soon.